Good morning, my magnificent friends. Sue here, your magnificence mentor, and we're back with Tea with Sue. This is episode number 38. Have you ever dropped a pebble into a pool of water? Maybe you were standing in the lake or by the river and you just picked up a small pebble, and imagine that the water was very calm and very still, kind of like glass, and you dropped this pebble in. And what did you notice happen? There's this little kerplunk and maybe a little tiny splash of water, and then the ripples start spreading, and they start spreading, and they start spreading. Now, do they just spread one way? No, they form a circle, and so it spreads far and wide and comes back to us. Now, when we think of the effect that our thoughts have on ourselves and on others, we can liken it very much to ripples in a pond. Because our thoughts, just as we're vibrational beings, our thoughts have vibrations too. And it's fascinating how far the energy of those thoughts will spread. Now, this can be really, really good, and it can be really, really tough, because depending on what we're thinking about and what we're projecting outward from ourselves, we're going to get that back in maybe equal measure, sometimes more so. So let me give you a little scenario. It doesn't take much effort to help. There's in the world, there's wars going on, there's climate change, you name it. There's a shopping list of topics that if you had nothing else to do in the day, you could just go from one to one to one to one to one and never get to the bottom of the list of all the things that are, quotes, wrong in the world. Here's the challenge. If we focus on what's wrong constantly, if that's uppermost in our minds, that ain't it awful game that we play, then in an odd kind of way, we keep dropping those pebbles into the pond, and maybe they're thoughts of disgust, or we think rude thoughts about our politicians, or we harbor dislike or even hatred for someone or something, or whatever else is going on. That has an effect. And the constant harboring of those negative thoughts seeds the ground for more negativity. And of course, those ripples, let's face it, if we're mad about something, if we're upset about something, it shows on our face, doesn't it? Maybe we're cursing and bad mouthing someone because of what just happened, and we come home and it infuses our mood for whoever we engage with next. So maybe because we're in such a bad temper about something, then we take it out on somebody else, and that poor person is, whoa, I was having a good day until that person showed up. And then it puts them in a bad mood. And then maybe they pass that on to the next person. And it's like the domino effect. And then pretty soon, everybody's in a bad mood. And I want to ask the question, how does that serve us? Does it serve us from a health perspective? Well, no, it doesn't, because the roil and boil of those negative emotions sends nasty chemicals shooting through our bodies that are harmful. It changes the nature of our cells and changes our makeup to the point where we feel dis-ease. The body feels dis-ease. Well, it's not a very long distance between dis-ease and disease. And in some cases, it's not a very long time either. So it doesn't really serve us physiologically to hang out in that negativity. So I read a passage the other day that said, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I thought about that and I thought, interesting question. Well, let's face it, we all have opinions about everything. And we tend to hold our opinions very near and dear to our hearts because in our hearts, we believe our opinion is right, that there's no other way to look at a situation than the way we look at it. So we hold on to that perspective. Well, then when someone else comes along with a different perspective, maybe the opposite perspective to us, there's a tendency to think, well, they're wrong, I'm right, end of story. Well, when we take that kind of rigid stance, when we say, on this rock I stand, we set ourselves up for more of the same, more of the problems that can come from being so rigid in our perspective, so rigid in our ideas, so rigid in what we believe in, that it kind of tunes everything and everybody else out. Well, what typically happens in a situation like that? I know when I'm faced with someone who has such strong opinions and they voice them in no uncertain terms, there's no room for discussion. It's whoa, I don't think I can argue with that. In fact, I don't want to. And so then I just want to turn around and get out of there. Like, I don't want to be around people who are so fixated on a particular point of view that there's no room for any other point of view. So one of the things I really wanted to focus on this week is to encourage you to examine how much of your day, week, month you spend, how much of your time do you spend not only immersed in the doom and gloom that's going on in the world, but in spreading the doom and gloom, in playing that ain't it awful game, when in fact, in reality, your life may not be like that at all. In fact, the opposite may be true. Maybe what's going on in the world that's so terrible is not actually happening to you. Then why are you focused on something that isn't even going on with you? And even if there is something going on with you that's not great, or you're in some kind of adversity, or you've had some kind of a trauma, that isn't actually all that's going on. Now, I'm going to come off today particularly sounding like the quintessential Pollyanna, which I confess is my default. I look at the world and I look at life as joyous and wondrous. And if there's a black cloud, I look for the silver lining, and most of the time I find the silver lining. Now, does that mean I've had, you might assume from that, oh, well, her life has been a bed of roses, a peachy keen, she's never had any problems. Let me tell you, I've had my share, right? I've had a couple of divorces. I've had a couple of bankruptcies. I've lost houses. I've had failed businesses. There has been close family deaths that have rocked me to the core. And some of you may know that I had 2 bouts of cancer, was really close to death once in my life, and maybe more than once. So life hasn't exactly delivered me all the big bowl of cherries. In fact, there was lots of times I was living in the pits. And there were times, there were lots of years that I felt as if I was living under a black cloud. And it was hard to pick myself up and pull myself out of that at times. There's no question of that, because let's face it, when life knocks us around, especially when it's unexpected, which most of the time it is unexpected, then we're not too sure how to cope, and it sets us back. It causes us to, whoa, what just happened? So we have this roil of emotions that go on, and these thoughts that, what did I do to deserve this? As if there was some kind of a book that said, okay, she's had all these good things over here, now she's due for something really bad. And of course, human nature being what it is, because we come out of the eons of needing to survive and being on high alert for the next bad thing that might cross our path so that we can stay safe, then our default often is in that direction where we say, oh, that I heard a funny noise in my car. And so we imagine the worst instead of maybe it's just stones rattling around in the hubcap. So we imagine the worst because this kind of reptilian part of our brain has taught us from generations ago that the world is a very scary place. But I haven't seen a saber-toothed tiger yet, and I've been on this planet this time round for quite a few years. So I don't think we face the kind of dangers even that our parents faced, or our grandparents faced, or any of our ancestors, the people who settled here in North America. Well, they face plenty of dangers that I've never faced and will probably not ever face in my lifetime. So, but we still harbor this sense of pending doom. And there's lots of superstitions about it, right? Bad things happen in threes. And so you have one bad thing happen, and then you go, oh, and you're on alert. Well, is there another one going on? And sure enough, the second one shows up and you think, oh no, what's the third one? Particularly if the bad things escalate. And then, so it's like waiting for that shoe to drop. Well, of course, if all our time is immersed in what might happen and what could happen, and you're suspecting that it's going to be all bad, there's very little time to focus on the creative juices, to focus on the good that's in the world, the good that can be in the world, and move into that vein. So we have both ends of the spectrum, right? Where we have the doom and gloom over here, and then we have what's positive, what's wonderful, what's peaceful, what's joyful, all these kinds of things. Well, where do you want to live? Quite honestly, I lived over here for a long time. It took effort for me to begin to move myself out of it. Fortunately for me, there were circumstances that would trigger in my life to show me the other side, to show me what joy was like, to show me what happiness was like. And I think as kids, we have a cheerful side to us. We love to laugh and we love to have fun, and that's just the nature of who we are when we're little people. Somehow life has a way, if we allow it, of beating away at that and causing us to diminish as we go? Well, it squashes our magnificence and puts us into this little box that says, no, 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 you're actually not worth anything. So you better just suck it up, buck up, deal with life just with your sword always out, like be on high alert, because something's going to get you and we don't know what it is. Oh, well, I don't know about you, but that isn't exactly the way I envision heaven on earth. That's the opposite of what I want. So what do we do about it? If you find yourself, and I'm guilty of scrolling to the news feed on my phone to see what the headlines of the day are, and 8 out of 10 of them are not positive. So then I'll pick and I'll read a little bit, and it's like a guilty, I know it's not good for me, but I do it anyway. So what is it? It's a habit. It's a habit of saying, well, well, I need to be informed. Really? Well, all those things that you're reading about that have actually not much to do with you are happening maybe on the far side of the globe. Doesn't mean you don't have empathy for what's going on. But in that moment, can you really do anything about it? If you can't do anything about it, then look to your own life and see what you can do about that, because that's where you live, and your perspective is the one thing that you have the power to change. You have the power to see differently, to feel differently about a situation. So that's where you have absolute control in whatever's in front of you and how you're going to view it. Somebody once told me that so if you imagine that there are 4 of you on a tabletop, you know, those tabletops in, let's say, the Grand Canyon, and you're standing there and one person's facing north and one's south and one's east and one's west, and maybe you've got connecting devices. You can talk to one another, and you're asked to describe what you see. Well, you describe what you're seeing from your vantage point, from your viewing point, and maybe you're facing south, and the person north says, oh, no, 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 that's not what I see. That's not what's out there. What's out there is this. And then the person from the west says, oh no, you two are absolutely wrong. That's not what I can see. I see this. And the person on the east says, no, 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 everybody's not, you're not seeing this properly. Well, everybody has their own perspective because they're seeing in the direction that they're facing. But what if all 4 take a helicopter ride above that plateau and they can see 360 degrees, and they go, oh, I see what you're seeing. That's what you meant when you said, yes. And all of a sudden, everybody's seeing things from the same viewing point. So how married are you to your point of view? Because if someone has an opposite point of view, it doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just means that their perspective or their viewing point is different than yours. Well, the way we solve the challenges that are going on in the world is to combine these various viewing points. And rather than saying, well, if I'm right, they must be wrong, they could be right too. Or we could both be wrong. We could both be mistaken in what we're looking at. That's what experimenting is all about, right? We start with a point of view or a premise of some sort, and then we play with it to test it out, to see, is that true? In fact, you know, will I like butter pecan ice cream? Well, I've never tasted butter pecan ice cream. Somebody told me it was delicious, but I won't know until I test it out myself. So that's what will get us out of the doom and gloom, is questioning, is that really true? Is the way I'm thinking or the way I'm viewing this actually true? And can I prove it? Because so many things that I've looked at, well, I say, is that true? And I'm going, I don't know. I have no way of proving it. Well, if I don't have any way of proving it, why am I so solidly mired in what I believe is right at that point in time? So there's a flexibility that's required here, and a willingness to say, maybe there's more than what I'm looking at. Maybe there's more to me. Maybe there's more to the other person. Maybe there's more to the situation that requires us to look at it from a collaborative standpoint and see what the best outcome is. Not your outcome, not my outcome, but the best outcome. This is what I wish for all our politicians, that they would connect and collaborate and communicate with one another for the best solution for everyone concerned, not just this party's ideas or that party's ideas. Everybody has good ideas. Well, what if we put them all together? Then we might have one great idea. So the habitual focus on doom and gloom, I'm going to suggest, does not serve us. It doesn't serve us individually. It doesn't serve us on a community or a global basis. We need to make a shift and start more habitually thinking, what's right about this? What's working about this? What's positive about this? What can I smile about? What can I laugh about? Where is the joy in all of this? Because when we start switching over physiologically from one person to another, then the endorphins start to flow. The feel-good hormones just trigger in the body, and we feel better. And our cells are doing a little happy dance, and our brain says, oh, I like this. And stronger cells are built, and healthier bodies are built, and we overcome physiological challenges easier. We also overcome emotional challenges easier. So that's the building of resilience. So when we hang out in the doom and gloom, it weakens our bodies, it weakens our spirits, and drags us down. And if we're dragged down, you can bet you're going to drag some others down with you. And maybe they're going to be those closest to you, your cherished loved ones. Well, do you want that for them? I don't want it for my loved ones. I want to be able to lift them up. I want to support them. I want them to be able to have a joyous life, an even more joyous life than I've had. Well, I can do my part by hanging out in what's working, what's positive, what's good. Doesn't mean that I condone or ignore the quotes bad stuff, but it means that I can find a different way, a better way for me. And when I can help, when I can uplift over here, then I do my part to do that. So my magnificent ones, I challenge you this week to pay attention to your thoughts and your feelings and say, is this where I'm hanging out, first of all? And do I like it? And if it's not where I want to hang out, not where you like it to be, you have the power to change that. Only you have the power to change that. Now, you can surround yourself with positive people and pull in some of that energy from them to get you going, to get you started. And then it's up to you. It's your life. You get to choose how you want to run it and what you want to rule you. Well, I would much rather be ruled by the sunshine than the dark. So that's my challenge to you this week. Not only pay attention to that, but if you find yourself wallowing in the negativity, what can you do to pull yourself out, and how quickly can you pull yourself out? Because it can be as fast as snapping your fingers and say, nope, not going there. And you leave that alone and you move forward in a different way. So that's my thing for this week. If you've been enjoying Tea with Sue, I welcome you every Fridays. You can subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an episode. You can also download the other 37 episodes if you haven't found them yet, either on my YouTube channel or through my app, The Magnificence Mentor. So go take on the day, go take on the weekend, find that little spark of joy, and you'll notice how magnificent that is for you. Breathe it in, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week.